All right, all right, all right. Okay, boys and girls, welcome to the show that never ends. Come inside, come inside. All right, so we're looking first at market failures. All right, what do we mean? We mean market fails to produce the right amount of the product. Resources may be overallocated or underallocated. Right, that's where the market is failing. It's either over or under allocating the resources. Some examples of market failures that we're going to focus on in this class would be the negative externality, the positive externality, and the public good. Okay, so those are three things we'll focus on in today's video. Let's go to the first thing we want to talk about is an externality. What is an externality? It's when a cost or benefit accruing to a third party external to the transaction, right? It's neither the consumer nor the producer. So positive externality says we're producing too little of the good. Someone is benefiting from the good who's neither the producer or the consumer. All right, we'll get into more details. That's a demand side market failure. Remind me to tell you why it could also be a supply side. But for the class, you need just to know that it's demand side market failure. Then you have a negative externality, where too much is produced. This is a supply side market failure. Right, good. Let's go. Let's look at consumer surplus. Let's do a quick review so we understand what the graph looks like. The difference between what a consumer is willing to pay for a product and what they actually pay. Right, it's the extra benefit from paying less than the maximum price. If I was to graph it, it would look something like that. Right? Then we have producer surplus. It's the difference between the actual price a producer receives and the minimum price they would accept. There's an extra benefit from receiving a higher price. Okay? Now, let's look at producer surplus on a graph. Wow, there we go. We've seen this before. Now we put them together, and I went too fast. And there's consumer producer surplus. We've talked about this before. All right, now let's go back to the externalities for a second. Externality, we said, is a cost or benefit accruing to a third party, external to the transaction. Because I'm such a positive guy, they call me Mr. Positivity in the building, I'm going to focus on negative externalities first, where too much is being produced, supply side market failure. Give me an example, Mr. Mooney. There you go, a bus. You're not riding the bus, you don't own the bus, but you're breathing that in. So you're paying the cost of that bus that the producer's not paying, right? So let's look at some other negative externalities. Noise pollution from neighbors, right? Air pollution from smokers, secondhand smoke, right? Litter from tourists, see what the beaches look like. So let's look at this graphically. Now I want you to see what we're labeling this now. Let me pull all this up as I'm talking. So basically we have the demand curve is known as the marginal social benefit. Okay? And the supply curve would normally be known as the marginal social cost. If everything was in equilibrium, that would be labeled MSC. It's not in equilibrium, so it's going to be labeled MPC, which stands for marginal private cost. Right? It's the cost to the private sector. The public doesn't have to pay anything for it. Q1 is what we should be producing. But instead, we're producing Q3 because the firm doesn't have to pay all the costs of producing. That's the negative externality. So we take the area of the overproduction, we put it above the curve, right there, because that's where we're at. We want to get rid of that. Okay, that's a deadweight loss that we need to get rid of. It's the same triangle that would be between Q1 and Q3, right? But we're going to put it above, and then supply side occurs when a firm does not pay the full cost of producing. An example of that would be back in the day, there was companies that would just dump their waste, their toxic waste, into canals, dig holes, and just bury them, and then the water supply gets infected, and people get sick, right? But the firm doesn't pay for that. So they don't pay to get rid of that waste, so their cost of producing is cheaper. Therefore, they produce more, right? So how do we fix this? We put a tax. We tax the firm to get to point B, so now we're at Q1, which is where we said we wanted to be, and that's our equilibrium with a higher price, okay? So the tax is the distance between marginal private cost, and now you see we're at marginal social cost. So point B is where marginal social cost and marginal social benefit intersect each other. That's equilibrium. This market has been fixed. We now tax the polluters, which means they're either going to find a way to fix the pollution, or they're going to pay for the air quality that we are breathing. All right, let's go now to another externality. All right, we've talked about this, positive externalities. Too little, demand side. Example, COVID-19 vaccines, right? To make sure there wasn't a problem with this, the government stepped in very early. But normally you would have where I use the flu as an example of this also. If everybody gets a flu shot in the class, then I don't have to get a flu shot because you guys will protect me from it because all of you get it. So as a third party, I'm getting the benefit of you getting the flu shot. I don't produce the flu shot, I don't consume the flu shot, but I get the benefits of the flu shot. Okay, couple of ideas on this. Health programs, education, museums, galleries, public libraries, so on. Okay, let's graph it. So in this one, QE is going to be below equilibrium, right? Now in this one, we don't have it labeled as marginal social benefit because the demand is too low. So that's marginal private benefit. So we have to figure a way to get it to the new equilibrium, okay? And we'll show you again with the externality is above the curve, right? It's going to be the distance between the two curves. So we need to get to Q1, right? We want to get to Q1, and the only way to get to Q1 is by increasing the marginal social cost, shifting the supply curve to the right, or shifting the demand curve to the right also. And we said this was a demand side failure, so we are going to subsidize the consumer, give them a tax break, a tax credit, something like that, right? We'll do that, shift the demand curve to the right, and now we're at marginal social benefit, and now we're producing at P and Q1. The downside of this is the price is higher, right? Okay, great. Now let's look at government intervention. How do they correct the negative externality? There's a few ways. Direct control, specific taxes. I'm sticking with taxes, okay? That's all you need to focus on. Positive externalities are fixed with subsidies. Government provisions, again, you guys stick with subsidies. All right, government can have a role in correcting externalities, but the important thing is officials must be able to identify the existence and then the cause, right? Which is not always so easy. So here's a quick little chart if you want. Again, number 3 on the top and number 2 on the bottom is really all we're going to be focused on. All right, next topic we want to talk about is private goods. Okay, what's a private good? It's a good produced in the market by firms. It's everything you know of in terms of goods. They're offered for sale, and there's a couple of characteristics. The first characteristic we have is called rivalry. What does that mean, rivalry? I'll tell you what it means. It means because someone is consuming the product, it eliminates someone else from consuming the same product. If I drink my drink, you can't drink the drink, right? And kind of basic, makes sense. Just remember the word rivalry, though. It will come back. Okay, then the other characteristic, excludability. I have the ability to stop someone from consuming the product if they didn't pay for it. You want the soft drink, you have to pay for the soft drink, right? We can stop people from doing that when it's a private good. So we have the 3 types here. Free good, we're not talking about it. Private good, rivalry and excludability. And then there's the public good, which is the opposite of the private good. There's non-rivalry and there's non-excludable, right? What do I mean? So let's take this little bubble over a town. This bubble protects this town from any attacks by foreign adversaries, right? Well, it's a very important thing, so everybody's willing to pay for it. Until they realize that if they don't pay, they're still protected. So everyone stops paying for it because they're still protected. I can't open the shield just to hit the one house. So people stop paying for it, and people stop paying for it, and they get the benefit of it. Right? Now, the problem with that is we can't exclude the other people. So we have to figure out a way to take care of this problem. Right? We provide it by the government. We offer it for free, and then we go back to the characteristics of a private good, and now we realize they're the opposite. Non-rivalry, right? Means that once a public good is consumed by one person, still available. If I'm under that shield, I'm fine. If I'm using the street light and you drive down, you use the street light, we both can use it. It doesn't mean it's gone after one of us uses it, okay? Then we go to the other excludability. Here, we cannot, and that's the problem, is you can't exclude people from the benefit, right? And that's why it ends up being a public good. If you could exclude people from the benefit, and you could keep people from consuming it more than once, then it would be a private good. Okay, so let's just, right, these two characteristics create what's called the free rider problem, where a producer provides a public good, everyone, including non-payers, can receive the benefit. Okay, keep in mind free rider. And then the last thing we want to talk about is a cost-benefit analysis. The cost are the resources diverted from private good production. Private goods that will not be produced. So when we do a cost-benefit analysis, we're saying, well, since we're not producing these private goods, we're using the resources to produce the public goods. That's the opportunity cost, right? But then there's a benefit, and that's the extra satisfaction from the output of more public goods. So the benefit of being able to enjoy the park means we're not building an apartment building there. If the benefit out or exceeds the cost, then we do it. Okay? All right, this was great, and I just want to thank our sponsor today, Golden's Mustard, the spicy brown mustard every hot dog in Knish should have. Okay, guys, boys, girls, children from everywhere, see you later.